Hello listeners, you're back with NPK Live, myself Stephen.
And myself Thomas.
And we'll be talking about pest and disease, spider mites, thrips, fungus gnats, pond skaters, why you get them, how to get rid of them, and more importantly, how to never get them again. Stay tuned. So, Thomas, pest and disease.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
vast subject.
Vast subject, very vast. You could, without actually going through it all, you could be here for days and weeks, even going on about the different pests and disease and how you get them and all the different answers. We just want to go over briefly the most common pest and disease and the most simple ways to get rid of them.
Okay. How about we make this into a two-part, because thinking about pest and disease... Disease is a big topic as well, isn't it? And it's not just related to pests.
So we can split it into just pest.
Yeah.
Just
which is this podcast.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with disease.
Yeah.
How to prevent it, how to stop getting it.
Yeah.
And how to cure it.
First of all, before we go any further, shall we do a little mention to what we were speaking about before?
Yeah. So the victims of terrorism over the last months, years... NPK sends their condolences to anybody affected by the tragic events, and we offer our support to all you people out there.
So all them people who've been affected by the incidents and atrocities, what's been going on recently and over the past few months, we just want to tell you that we're all thinking about everybody, and don't give in to these mindless acts of terror, and don't let it defeat you. As a group, if everybody all sticks together, you know, we'll all get through this in the end.
Yeah, stay strong and garden.
Yeah, garden. If at any time you're a bit stressed out, just get into the garden and do some gardening and pot up some plants or sow some seeds, and you know I always find my zen spot. Just especially when I've had a tough day or I've had a bit of an argument or you know a bit of road rage or you've been in that queue for 5 hours and it's getting longer and not shorter. I always tend to do a bit of gardening and it always brings a little smile to my face.
Yeah, the allotments is your quiet space, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's my favourite space as well, I think.
Yeah.
Right, moving on.
Yeah.
We're going to start with spider mites.
Right, them little gets.
The worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst. What are they? They're tiny, microscopic arachnids.
Yeah, they're arachnids, 8-legged creatures.
Yeah.
So these spider mites, they're called spider mites. It's a bit confusing, isn't it?
Because they're like mites.
That look a bit like spiders.
Yeah, so you're getting the gist.
Yeah. How do we get rid of them?
Ooh. Get your plant and kill it and throw it in the bin.
And what happens next time when you've got more spider mites and more plants?
You get your plant and throw it in the bin.
And then the third time?
Just get your plants and throw them in the bin.
But, okay, so we're just going to kill our plants every time. How are we going to prevent?
Okay, prevent. First of all, we could make the climate not so happy for these little buggers, as I'm going to call them. And what you'll find with the spider mites is they love an arid, dry climate. Now, people get confused. Arid and dry means, let me give you a small example. Say, for instance, you have a large extraction funnel and you've got loads of lights on and you're extracting this here very, very quickly and the humidity is really low. That's going to lead you to a dry and arid climate.
Okay. And that's what they like, is it?
Oh, they love it.
Okay, so that's a mistake that a lot of people make when they're in the veg cycle as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have dry, arid environments.
When you should have a nice, humid environment.
Yeah. And to add to that dry, arid environment, a lot of people have intakes coming into the tent during veg period. And that is not scientifically proven, but observationally, that seems to be where a lot of people get their spider mites from, is unfiltered intake air coming into the tent.
Also, people get various different types of clones, tomato clones, cucumber, aubergine, whatever breed of whatever plant, fruit or whatever veg it is. And they take these clones from a unreliable source, don't treat them with any pesticide or whatever, and then bring them into their absolutely immaculate grow room. So that's basically lowering your defence system as well, because you're allowing something that hasn't went through quarantine, your strict quarantine. So that's one option as well.
So they've hitched a ride, little Trojan horse.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the Trojan horse. They come into this clean environment, and when they've arrived, it just so happens that it's nice, arid and dry. So, hey, let's get the sunglasses out and
have a party.
Yeah, let's have a party. And now the thing with these little buggers is, when these guys party, they are very sexual and they get busy very quickly. Yeah. There's no, romancing over a drink and a film and maybe the second date. Once these get to their happy place, they are happily making babies.
And lots of them.
Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of them.
So I think, I haven't got any facts in front of me, but I wouldn't be far off if I said 4, 5, 6 spider mites could easily become 1,000 if untreated within a week.
Easy, not a problem whatsoever. Probably after a week, if you let the infestation grow and you let them breed and multiply, you could probably have 10,000. Because they do accelerate quite somewhat. I think, off the top of my head, don't quote me on this. So any grow shops listening who want to shoot me down, go on. You go on the internet and phone in and go, oh no, he was wrong. I think it's about 1 to 1,000.
Yeah.
So one will multiply into 1,000 in about 48 hours. Don't quote me on that. I might just be making that up.
But the point that we're both making is that these are rapid.
Yeah, these are not good. These fuckers.
Leads to a good point that we'd like to make: observation. If you're not monitoring your plants and you're not keeping an eye out for these little yellow speckles on the top of the leaf, that as they suck in the chlorophyll out the leaf, you're not being observant of what's going on in your room and on your plants, that's how they're going to take control. If you're observant, you'll start to see tiny little speckles appearing and you can hit them hard before these have a chance.
If you're not very observant and are just like a 1 minute wander in your grow room, you just walk in for 1 minute, put the water in and walk back out and don't look at your plants, after a couple of weeks you're going to start seeing these white webs encased around the fruits of your flowers.
Is this the spider mites getting married and they're putting all bits of decoration up?
Oh no, they're just homing in on Independence Day basically. They're ready for sheer termination of your
annihilation.
Annihilation Day. Their army is getting stronger and stronger, and you'll also notice your plants getting weaker and weaker and weaker.
So you've got spider mites.
Yeah.
Before we talk about preventing them, you've got them, so how do we get rid of them?
Well, there's various pesticides you can use. Once you come to the store and get one of these pesticides from us, it's a simple process. You dilute up this solution, put it in a spray bottle, and attack your plants. Go to war with your plants. You do. And
do you go to war when the lights are on or when the lights are off?
When the lights are off. If you go to war when the lights are on and you spray these plants, you're going to burn all of the leaf.
Yeah. And
it's going to leave your plant in a really bad mess then.
Even more so than it was.
Yeah, it's going to really end the plant then.
Yeah.
Because it won't be able to help itself become stronger and defend against the spider mites. And then they're also going to think, oh, we've got you now on the ropes. Let's really hammer you now.
Okay. Before we move on from curing these spider mites, there's 2 different stages that you can get spider mites. Obviously, early on in the vegetative period, and also during late flowering. And what people don't want people to do is get pesticides onto the tomatoes a week, 2 weeks before they're ready to harvest, because pesticides are not healthy for spider mites, which is great news, but they're also not healthy for human consumption. So we talk about a harvest interval. A lot of these pesticides have a 4-week, 5-week, 6-week harvest interval, meaning that from when you spray them, you need at least 4 or 5 weeks before you harvest the tomatoes or your cucumbers or whatever it is you grow. So there's 2 periods that you've got to be aware of: vegetative period and flowering period. Now, in the vegetative period, you can use chemicals because the plant has enough time to recover. But in the flowering period, when you start to get your produce and the parts of the edible parts of the plant, you don't want to be spraying pesticide onto it. You don't want to be consuming those chemicals that you're using to kill the spider mites or any other pests. So your shop should have an alternative. Do not be spraying pesticides on your plant during the last 4 to 5 weeks of flowering. Go for the alternative. In our case, we have a solution that has 0 harvest interval, meaning you could spray it today and you could pick the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the chilies tomorrow, and they are safe to be eaten. So there's 2 things that you need to bear in mind. Are you in veg period or are you in the late stages of flowering? And pick the pesticide that's going to benefit you and get rid of the problem, but not going to be harmful in any way. That's what I'd like to say about that.
Okay, also about on this subject, to any of our customers that are listening right now, or just to any of our listeners, we've just received some test products quite recently, some pest and disease products, some for spider mite, thrips and various other bits and bobs, and we're giving out some samples of that free of charge, and these are organic as well. So as Stephen was saying, these don't have any effect on the overall result on the plant. So if you're listening and you want to test some of these products for us, drop us an email or give us a call and we'll get some out to you, or pop in and come and grab some and you can give us some feedback.
Obviously, we're based in the UK. If you're in Australia or the US, as many of our listeners are, get a few years together. We'll send out 5 samples rather than sending out 5 different packages over to the US, which is a little bit costly. Get 5 years that you know would be interested. I'll send 5 bottles out in one package and you can distribute those amongst your friends.
Yeah, and give us some feedback and let us know what you think.
That'd be great. Okay, prevention. Now, we touched on it earlier with regards to the intake fan. Very simple. Buy some women's tights or some men's tights. We're equal opportunities here.
Yeah.
And cover your fan with them. What that's going to do is stop the little buggers being sucked up into the fan and being blown around the plant, where they'll eventually settle and munch away.
And it'll give you a lot cleaner grow room, because what you'll notice is after a week of this tight being over the fan, it will be absolutely matted with dust and bits of
black, doesn't it?
Bits of nasties. And then it really hits home then that when you wasn't using the tight, how much stuff you was actually putting into your grow room, and you'll never do it again. So, top tip.
Have you got any other tips for prevention? Pets. Don't have pets in your grow room.
Yeah.
They even if you think you've got the cleanest pet, not one person on this planet could spot a single spider mite on your dog's coat or your cat's coat.
No.
So try and keep them away, because they can jump onto your pet, and your pet has a little mooch around your room, jump off the pet onto your plant, and away you go.
Cleanliness is a top tip for me. Just keeping your room clean. If you have done old grow cycles, make sure you've got all the old waste from that, so you're not passing any pathogens or anything like that.
Yeah.
Constantly make sure that the air coming into the room's clean, contaminated. Also, any plants that you bring into the grow room is not contaminated. Also, yourself, you haven't been in any contaminated grow rooms or anywhere that might have spider mite or any other pest that you could bring back to your grow room.
There's also one other product, Bactivator by Hydrotops. It's a good product, extensive root systems, it's a beneficial bacteria, but to get to the point, it also prevents spider mites on your plants. Now, the way it does this is it confuses the spider mite, and it doesn't then recognise your plant as food, so it doesn't eat it. It's pretty simple as that.
And that's a preventative.
Yeah, that's a preventative measure. There might be other products out there on the market. That's just the most well-known one. It's by Hydrotops, called Bactivator, and even if you never have spider mites, it's a great little addition to your nutrient regime anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done prevention. We've covered how to get rid of them. Anything else that you'd like to say about spider mites, apart from their little bastards?
Once you do get spider mite, it is a bit of an arduous task to get rid of them. You do need to stay on the ball, because at any point that you're not, they will regroup and re-attack you very hard. So just constantly be aware. You should always be checking your plants for any pests and disease anyway, but as we said before, there's the various ways of spotting them, preventing them, and also, if you have got them, curing them.
Okay. One last thing I'm going to mention before I just summarise spider mites.
Yeah, I've missed something off.
Have you? Yeah. During the late flowering stages, spider mites like to move upwards in the plant. So a key thing to do is, during the late stages, you're obviously not using a heavy chemical pesticide. You're hopefully using something organic with a 0 harvest interval. Make sure you spray them when the lights are off. and then make sure you coat the top of that plant, because that's where you're going to find a lot of them. They love to migrate upwards on the plant during the late flowering stages. So there's another little tip for you. Make sure you're hitting the top of the plant.
Also, another cure for spider mite is predatory mite. That's one thing I've got to mention.
Good point.
If you don't know what a predatory mite is, it's another nasty that doesn't harm your plant, but basically lives off eating spider mites.
Yeah.
So you basically introduce them into your grow room and they attack your spider mites and eat them.
So if you're running a big horticultural system, I know a lot of agricultural indoor tomato growers that are on hydroponics, cucumber growers, pepper growers around the world, instead of using chemicals which can affect the quality of the food, the taste, they're going to use predatory mites. There's an abundance of food there for them, and as soon as that food source runs out, the predatory mites then leave the room and they scarper to find other food sources. So good point there, Thomas. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So cover your intakes, observe your plants. If you notice any yellow speckles on the top of the leaf, be aware, check the underside of the leaf and you'll start to see eggs. And that's what we know about spider mites. Thrips.
Well, just one thing I want to say is, so see these tips that we've just gave you just then for spider mite. All of these tips, i.e. the stocking over the airing, the cleanliness in the room, making sure you're not contaminated, making sure your species that you've brought to the room isn't contaminated. All of these can be implemented with all of the pests.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. If you do all of these things, it's going to make life really hard for all pests to live in your grow room.
Yeah, so that's good. So it means we don't have to spend as much time on thrips. And again, because we don't read off a script, things come to us as we're talking.
No, by the way, folks, we haven't got a single piece of paper in front of us yet. This is just our general knowledge and life as a grower and spending time with our friends and colleagues every day talking about growing and just
learning as we go.
Learning and just discussing and viewing videos and testing products, and that's what we do.
If there's anything that we've missed off, we have got access to just shy at the moment of 13,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So we've got a real massive information out there. We myself and Thomas conduct a podcast, but by no means do we think we know everything.
No,
far from it.
We don't.
For each of the 13,000 subscribers that are listening, you'll have a little bit of information. Get that information to us, so when we come to do another Pest and Disease podcast in 6 months or 12 months' time, we can add all this information in, or next week when we talk about disease, we can add this information in. Please feel free to pick us up on anything that we say. Send us emails with your top tips, and we'll happily put them out on the podcast. That's something that I've been meaning to mention for a little while.
Yeah. Also, if there's anybody out there who's listening of a professional stature, I don't know, maybe university lecturers, universities, colleges, schools, educational groups,
anybody that's got anything to do with botany, horticulture, agriculture,
and want to get in contact and give us some discussions on what they think and what they like doing and what's good and what's not, get in contact with us, because at the end of the day we are the people's shop, and that's why we do these shows.
Good stuff. I had one last point, because it's not scripted. It came back to me just 5 minutes ago. Silicon.
Okay.
Silicon, as well as all the other benefits that we've spoke about previously, heat resistance, drought resistance, cold resistance, it also makes the cell walls, scientifically speaking, there's a hypothesis out there that thinks that the silicon provides a double silicon layer within the plant, basically making the leaf stronger. So those little pesky spider mites can't actually penetrate the leaf with the mounds, and therefore they can't eat. So they try the best, they can't have the food, and they bugger off. So silicon's also a good addition to preventing pests and disease as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Thrips.
Thrips.
Yeah.
Okay. What are thrip?
Thrip are a little bastard.
Yes.
I'm not going to go into detail and say exactly the scientific classification.
What they are is little things that look like little caterpillar-y things.
Yeah, little tiny grains of rice.
Yeah, that's what they look like, and they look like a lightish colour as well. And the top way of spotting you have thrip is you'll walk into your room, and mid-range of the plant, will start to becoming yellow and cracked, and leaves slowly falling off. You'll see a few screwed up, very dry leaf, really dry, as if it's come from the desert, and that they'll be hanging off. And you'll look at some of the other leaves, some of the nice feeder leaves and the big fan leaves, and you'll see these snail trails, these shiny silver.
So have the snails in the room?
No,
Oh,
these are thrips, and what they're actually doing is they're mining the chlorophyll from the leaf. That was a bit technical for me. That wasn't
it was. Yeah.
So what they're doing, these silver trails, is they're crawling across your leaf, and the actual colour green on the leaf is the stuff called chlorophyll. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these have got their little fine pincers, and they're gnawing away at these leaves. I'm actually doing an action right now, even though you can't see it. And they're gnawing away at this leaf. And as they're doing it, they're chewing away, they're sucking up this chlorophyll, and they're leaving this trail of disaster behind them, which is actually affecting the leaf and how it turns its food into energy.
Yeah.
Which is severe.
Yeah, very severe.
Because you need these leaves to be intact.
They're basically destroying your solar panels.
Yeah, your solar panels for energy. And no solar panels means no energy, which means
no food.
No plants.
And death.
So, thrip, they take a bit of time to get hold, but once they've got the teeth into the leaf,
yeah.
It's a bit of a battle.
Yeah. Again, there's the ways to prevent them, which we talked about before. Exactly the same methods of prevention as it was for spider mites. The pesticide, exactly the same. But with thrips, they have spiracles.
Ooh.
Spiracles. I like saying that word. Yeah. Spiracles.
And what is that?
Spiracles are, in the most basic sense, what the thrips will breathe through. So, when some of the pesticide that you can use will suffocate them. They will create a layer around these spiracles and suffocate them. So that's one of the methods of that the pesticide
suffocation. It's always one of my favourite forms of death and killing things is suffocation.
Yeah, they've ruined my life, so I'm going to ruin theirs.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, there's lots of pesticides out there. Choose which one that has worked for your friends, or whatever one the grow shop is advising to you. Not always the most expensive one. Sometimes the cheap ones work, the £5 ones. In the UK, plenty of grow shops will have the cheaper ones. So I don't think it's all about spending a lot of money. And then in the later stages of flowering, making sure that you're getting an organic one that's got zero harvest interval.
If you do have spider mite, or you have thrip, or you have a pest and you don't know what it is and you don't know what to do, give us a call. We will diagnose and prescribe a solution, and we will help you terminate your pest from your room, guaranteed.
Okay, so thrip and spider mites are pretty similar. They can enter the room the same way, they're treated in the same way, and you've got to be observing your plant constantly to make sure that either the yellow speckles or the silvery snail trail.
Yeah.
But as we move on to our next pest, this is something different. This is a different kettle of fish. And the reason you get it is because of you.
Ooh, you.
You've created an environment.
Well,
it's quite similar, actually, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, you create a lot of environments for the other guys, but you can really, basically, with this one, you're really opening the front door and inviting them in for a cup of tea. You're making it that easy for them, because there's a lot of things that growers do that we've seen working in the store, and we think, oh my God, what are these people doing? They're just opening themselves up for pest and disease, and simple things can do this by, i.e., overwatering.
And what pest does this provide?
Ooh, pond skaters.
Pond skaters. Now, if you haven't seen pond skaters,
imagine little dwarfs on tiny skates, and they do what's it called, dancing on ice on
Torval
skates.
And Dean.
Yeah, Torval and Dean on the water at the base of the plant.
Yeah, so if you're not interested in growing plants, they're quite funny to watch. Skating around, put some music on, watch them get round the overwater plants.
Pond skaters / springtails.
pretty similar conditions.
Yeah.
Breed, springtails, and pond skaters. Fungus gnats.
What are they? What are they doing? They chewing away at roots.
Fungus gnats are chewing away at them roots. They love that rooty, fibrous food.
And would you say they're thriving off the rotten environment you're creating because you're just going into your plant and you may be top feeding, you may be bottom feeding, but whatever feed you're doing, there's water sitting in that tray. It's in that tray and it's sitting there. And it's sitting there. And it's sitting there. Oh, and it's probably a bit cold as well.
And the plant manages to just suck up that last bit of water, and you come along, boom, and
Nice
dump another
5
litres of water.
5 litres. Oh, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
So then these pond skaters start, or these fungus gnats, or these... What was the last one? Pond skaters.
Fungus gnats. I've just said that I've
Springtails.
Springtails.
So these are thriving in an environment what is really moist, damp,
Humid.
yeah, rotten.
Yeah, because you've overwatered the plant, you've starved the root zone of oxygen, and that is the perfect environment for the 3 pests we've just described.
But not only that, as we said, we're gonna do this in a 2-part. So you have disease as well, but also those conditions that we've just explained, loads of water, you've got the pond skaters and stuff, you've also created a perfect environment for disease as well. So you are opening up yourself to a full frontal attack from pest and disease.
Yeah.
But we'll give you that bad news on the second part.
Very easy to solve this one now. What do we do? I'll let you have a guess. What do you
Put more
think you
water
do?
in.
More water, yeah, because we'll drown the little buggers.
Yeah, we'll drown them out to life. No, you just stop putting the water in, and what happens? They bloody die.
Yeah, because they don't like the dry environments.
Yes.
And don't think after 2 days of no watering that the plant is thirsty and wants more water.
Oh.
No. Just stop watering your plants. I know it's hard.
Yeah.
I know you want to get in there and give them some more water, but don't.
I'll be careful, Stephen. You've just told our listeners not to water plants. Now, some might take that to an extreme and never water their plant again. If you do that, you'll always have a dead plant.
At least you won't have fungus gnats.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dead easy. There's a product out there as well called Natoff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's no longer available. But we do have some stock left.
Yeah.
You can get that by coming into the shop
or
ordering online.
Once it's gone though.
Once it's gone, it is gone, and we'll just have to look for the new product to get rid of fungus gnats. But this one was a great product. We're getting quite a few orders for it.
What I wanted to mention as well is when these pests move in for a bit, you come over to stay, depending on how long they stay, how long you let them live there for, is going to determine how much of an effect it has on your plant.
Yeah.
If you do manage to evict them, good on you, big slap on the back. You're going to then need to spruce the house up a bit, if you know what I mean. You're going to need to look after the plant a little bit, because it's going to be in a weaker form than it originally was. So there is some products on the market that can help your plant come out of stressful situations, and that is a stressful situation. If your plant is being attacked or is getting attacked by a pest, your plant is undergoing some stress, and it's going to have some instant effects on the growth and the way the plant develops.
I'd also say if the plant is in a vegetative state, don't consider turning the plant into flower before you've got rid of these pests.
No.
And before the plant's healthy again.
Yeah.
Was the product you were going to mention, was that Revive?
Yeah, that's one of the products.
That's one of the products. It's a good product. It's got a little bit of nitrogen as well as a host of other ingredients that are going to remedy the plant back to health.
It's like, I like Revive as a product. I always have. It's been around for 15 years easy.
Yeah.
It's a product by Advanced Nutrients. Yeah. And I call it the bottle of medicine. And if you look at the bottle, it actually does have the red cross on it to distinguish it as, i.e., a medicine for plants. And I always say to every customer, grower, friend, or whoever I'm speaking to, and they're talking about pest and disease and problems or just issues with the plants when they become stressed, and I say, well, have you got your medicine in your medicine cupboard? And they look at me a bit weird. What's this lad talking about again? Here he is. He's off on another one. And I mean, every one of us who are listening right now, hand on your heart, have a drawer or a cupboard or something in your house somewhere where there's all sorts of tablets, lozenges, plasters, everything. A
Sharp
medicine
objects.
cabinet. So you've got something there to look after yourself or your partner or when you're feeling a little bit down. So it's only right you should have it for your plants. And Revive, it's a 1 litre bottle. It's 20 quid. And as these medicine cupboards go, they stay in these medicine cupboards for years. So does Revive, because you just bring it out now and again when your plant feels a little bit sick. Or, okay, you've forgotten to water it. You've overwatered it. The climate's wrong. They've been attacked by pests. You've kicked the plant over and all the soils fell out of it. You've snapped a branch. You've farted on it. Anything you want. If you've stressed that plant out, all you do, medicine cupboard, get the Revive out, 20 ml to 10 litres of water, give it a slight dosage, a slight watering. So not what you'd usually water the plant, just a slight little dosage, like a little teaspoon of medicine, and then that's it. Bottle back in the cupboard until the next time the plant gets a little cold or feeling a little bit under the weather.
And you'll know you're doing well when that Revive bottle starts gathering dust.
Yeah.
Because all your diseases, your pests, your bad environments, you'll have knocked them on the head and you've become a cultivator.
Yeah, so that also then becomes a guide for you on how good you are, because the more dust you have on your bottle of Revive means how good you've managed to control your grow room.
Yeah, unless you've lost the bottle. It just sits at the back.
Yeah.
So, another couple of things that come to mind. For certain pests, you have these tiny little flying insects around your plant.
Black fly. They are a pest.
Yeah.
They've had me doing somersaults in a room, them trying to hit them, and I've knocked the filter down, I've whacked the light, I've kicked the pot over, I've poked the hole through the tent with me swatter trying to swat these things. No need.
Yeah, they are the definition of pests, because all the others you can't see.
Yeah.
And these little bastards are fucking flying around. They manage to get out the way every time you swat them. They're fucking little shits.
And they're hitting you in the face and they're flying round and they're just flying everywhere and just doing your head in.
Yeah.
Right, I have got some top tips for these little gets. How do we get them and why do we get them?
Moist soil
Yeah.
seems to be...
Yeah.
I'm
And
trying to
warm environment, because I never really see them in the winter. But in the summer, they seem to be quite rife, especially, as you said, bit of moist soil. They seem to just be flying out of that soil, just coming out of there, out of the top quarter.
Yeah.
Now, what I've found is they really love the bushiest section of the plant. So it's like a quarter of the way up or 3/4 of the way down. And they faff around in there. And they're just, I don't really know what they're actually doing. They're just mating and making more and more and more of them.
Yeah.
And they can spread like wildfire. The best thing I ever got given to me, and it was a good few years ago, 10 years ago, and we sell it in the shop because of this, is them yellow sticky traps. Now, in our shop, you buy 10 of them for about £5, and I bloody love them. They're that sticky. If you want, you can pull off one side and slap your friend on his beard and it will pull his beard clean off. They're that good. I've actually stuck a few to my friend's arms and head and eyebrows and that. It's a great laugh. Don't try that at home. Not that we'd recommend that. But anyway, these sticky traps.
Yellow in colour.
Because the fly actually likes that. And what I do is I place some. I rip the sticky adhesive off and I put it on top of the pot so they're lying flat. So when they try and walk around the bottom of the pot, they all stick. Then I hang some on a string at 3/4 of the way down the plant. And then I put some up by the lights as well. So I've got my 3 different heights from the base of the plant to a little bit further up suspended and then right up where the light is. And not only are they good for trapping them, but they're good for monitoring the infestation. Now, if you put a trap out and within a day it is full, both back and sides, you know you've got a severe infestation. If you put a trap out and after 2 weeks there's a few speckles on there, you know you've just got a few average pests and there's no big drama. With these traps, if you put enough out of them, it catches them that quick, it stops them from reproducing. Plus, if you also use some of the pesticides that we use, the organic pesticides, and some of the systemic pesticide, because these lay little eggs 1/4 of the way down, we have a systemic pesticide that you can apply in your nutrient regime, and you feed it into the topsoil, and it will basically kill the eggs. So you can attack it from 3 different ways there. You can do it with the traps, systemic pesticide, and foliar pesticide.
Yeah, which is the contact killer.
Yeah, contact killer.
Systemic, just for those that don't know, will be introduced throughout the plant, and when the pests feed on the plant, they are obviously taking in poisonous materials, which is systemically gone through the plant, and that's how they killed through the inside, basically.
Yeah. Also, the pests that we're mainly covering as well, because we are hydroponics indoor growers, we are very lucky. We get to manage a lot of what comes in and out of our room. If we was talking about what pests we have on our allotment, I hope you'd have 2 weeks, because it is an absolute nightmare outdoor growing for pests.
Is that something maybe we'd cover maybe March, the beginning of the allotment season?
Yeah, when it comes to March, we'll go on about the allotments, and we'll do some allotment podcasts and stuff about that, but they're going to be really long.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the amount of pests out in the outdoor environment is... Oh, you can just start at dogs and cats and worms and rats and bats and flies and sheep and anything. It just goes on and on and on and on.
I'll probably get some guests in as well from the allotments. Maybe Alan Titchmarsh, if he's listening, wants to come on.
Yeah, so Alan, I know I spoke to you last week and you were really busy doing Ethel's garden. It was a really good job that you done there, mate. But if you wouldn't mind giving me a ring later on, and we can see if I can fit you into podcast. Yeah. All right, Al. Cheers, mate.
Or if Charlie Dimmock's listening, you can come along as well.
Yeah, you can bring Charlie as well.
Right, I've got 2 more things because they just keep on popping into my head. Very quickly.
Hold on, we just talked about black fly. What about white fly?
Yeah, they're bastards as well.
Yeah, well, they're equally as fuckers, and you can control them in a similar sort of way, and we have all the same sort of pesticides, organic and chemical, in store to help you out with them.
Awesome. 2 non-pesticidal methods of getting rid of pests. 1 for thrips, it's quite funky, this one. Tinfoil. Cut up some tinfoil into little strips. This is not something to do if you've got a lot of pots, but if you've got a few pots, cut tinfoil into strips, lay it on the top layer of soil, cocoa or compost, and what it does is it confuses them. The light hits the tinfoil, refracts at different angles and confuses the thrips, and when they're confused, they don't like to lay eggs. So you can kill the thrips and prevent them from laying eggs. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is also for thrips. They love the colour blue. So blue sticky traps, if you have thrips, can help eradicate that pest. One more thing, forgot to mention with spider mites, is that when you are spraying, you're spraying in the dark when the lights are off, but you need to spray every 3 days, because a lot of pesticides that I know of actually aren't good enough to kill the eggs. The eggs are really well protected, so pesticides tend not to kill the eggs. So what you have to do is you kill the spider mites to stop any more eggs being produced, but then the eggs that are already there are going to hatch. So 3 days later when that happens, you kill those spider mites that have hatched, and you need to do this 2 or 3 times to get rid of them. So that's something I forgot to mention for spider mites.
And then continuously monitor it.
Yeah. Anything else from your side, Thomas?
So we've talked about spider mite, thrip, black fly, white fly, fungus gnat, springtails,
pond skaters.
Pond skaters, springtails and fungus gnats commonly found in automated flood and drain systems. So
ones that you're not monitoring too much because you've got a little bit lazy.
Yeah,
now that
you've
got
become
a nice
lazy. You've replaced your intelligent brain. I say that. I'll say that very lightly. With a plastic component, it's never going to be as good as a human being. So one big mistake a lot of people make is to install this system and then hardly ever go there, and that can be a major flaw.
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
I get upset at cry at night when I hear about these.
Because we love plants, so we don't want to distance ourselves from them. We like to hug them and talk to them and stuff and be with them. We don't want to send them off with the nasty system for a couple of weeks.
Up to the big pearly gates up in the sky.
But we do use systems. However, we still go to the grow room and we still...
And we're there every day.
Yeah, and attend and checking things and making sure everything's running fine. But as I was saying, with the automated systems, that's particularly the flood and drain ones, DWC as well, anything with a lot of water, watch out for the pond skaters and stuff.
Yeah, good tips.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up pests. There are a few more pests. If you'd like some more information, or if there's a pest that we haven't covered that you'd like some information on, let us know and we can briefly talk about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of pests. We've just basically covered the main ones that we hear in the shop on a continual day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And that's that for pests.
Yeah.
So if you've got any questions or there's anything we haven't covered, like I said, throw us a line and we will talk about it on next week's podcast, which is disease.
The mange.
Stay away from me.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Stephen and Thomas. You've been listening to NPK Live with myself, Stephen.
And myself, Thomas.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.